Hey there, everybody. Hope you're having a good Sunday. I've been getting a lot of requests from my followers to make um, some more ghost story videos. Apparently, that's more interesting than baking ones, which, it's been probably a year or real close to it since I've made any sort of video because I've just been, working so much and everything the last several months. So I apologize for that. But, sometimes life gets in the way of things. But at any rate, so I've been trying to think about what particular story to tell. I've got so many, it's ridiculous. But there was one time, this was about 6, 7 years ago. I had went down into my basement to do some laundry one day. And just as I got down there, I heard this whistle. I can't whistle anymore, so I can't replicate it for you, but it was pretty much like how you'd whistle for a dog to come to you. And of course, I'm the only one in the basement, so I'm looking around trying to find the source of this whistle and, couldn't find anything to explain it. So the next thing I knew, a box of dryer sheets went flying off the dryer, which of course made me look in the direction they landed at across the room. And while I was doing that, something or someone came and punched me in the back. So, I knew what was going on. I've been plagued by this kind of thing since I was 8 years old. And it doesn't scare me anymore, And most of the time, the evil spirits that come around occasionally, they're aware of that, Evil spirits are a lot of things, but stupid ain't one of them. They can always pick up on somebody that's vulnerable or, like maybe going through some things and are just depressed. And that's when they attack, especially when you're sleeping, when you're at your most vulnerable. But, they'll do anything they can to try to scare you because that's what they feed off of. Your fear makes them stronger, which, I don't understand the physics of that, but I know from experience that's exactly the way it works. Well, I just went on with what I was doing. And because I knew to run out of the basement scared would just give them more pleasure and power to try to aggravate me. And, I wasn't going to let that happen. So, time went on, and I, at that time, and had for many years before, I always slept on my stomach. And I've heard these stories about, they call it nighttime paralysis or sleep paralysis is how you pronounce it. My apology. And it's usually when somebody sleeps on their back, they'll be laying asleep and then all of a sudden something is on top of their body. Sometimes it's what they call an old hag, like an old lady that looks like a witch or whatever, strangling them, and they're paralyzed. The person that's, having this done to them is paralyzed and can't move, can't do nothing about it. They're just laying there scared out of their minds. Well, I haven't had that happen to me because all of my life I've either slept on my stomach or on my left side. Well, what I have had happen though, when I used to sleep on my stomach, I would be sound asleep and feel something or someone pressing down on my back, pushing me down into the bed. And it would take all the strength I had to fling them off of me. And, I would command them to leave in Jesus' name, which always works. They will leave. They can't stand that being said. And like I've said before in at least one other video, that don't mean they won't come back. you know, a week later, a few days later, you know, whenever. But they will always flee if you command them to leave in Jesus' name. And that's just all there is to it. No matter, you know, and the more you believe and have faith in Jesus, the more powerful your words will be. There was an occasion once, probably 15 years ago. I was up late typing medical transcription for some surgeons. I used to type up their dictation and stuff. And at the time, I babysat several neighborhood kids during the day. And then when my husband would come in the evenings from work, I'd be ready and waiting for him to get there so I could leave and go waitress at a local Bob Evans. And then when I got home at 10, 11 o'clock at night, I'd be up till 2 or 3 in the morning typing this dictation. Well, this particular evening, my 2 daughters and ex-husband was in bed asleep. I was in our front room. We had one of those typical ranch houses where, you know, the front room was usually like a parlor or, you know, a good living room that you didn't use. And then there'd be another living room off of that would be like your den or TV room, whatever. Well, we had turned that front room into an office. Well, half of it anyway. The other half had a piano and a couch and whatever. But anyway, I was up late that night typing up this dictation for the surgeons that I worked for. And I kept hearing something walk up and down the hallway. And, you know, first couple times I thought it was one of the kids, and I'd get up and look and there wouldn't be nothing there. So, you know, I knew, you know, I figured out pretty quickly what it was. So I just ignored it, you know, they didn't scare me. I had been dealing with stuff like that at the time for over 20 years, so well over 20 years. So I knew, you know, they couldn't hurt me. And for me to show fear would be the dumbest thing for me to do. So I just continued on with my typing. And a few minutes later, I sensed the presence of 2 spirits standing beside me there at my desk. And I just ignored them. Well, I could tell that that was frustrating them. And one of them actually poked me in the ribs as if to say, you know, acknowledge me, darn you. And I still didn't. But a couple minutes later, I went out into the garage. That's, you know, I have to admit, I'm a cigarette smoker. And I always smoked in the garage there. Well, I'd went out there to kind of get away from those spirits and to smoke a cigarette. Well, you know, even as knowledgeable as I was at the time about things like that and not showing fear, for some odd reason, I suddenly got afraid. And, you know, I'm sure those 2 spirits picked up on that. You know, I could just tell. Well, God actually spoke to me out loud. I heard him say, Kelly, what are you afraid of? They fear my name, and because you're my child, they fear your name too. Well, I tell you what, you know, there's absolutely nothing that anyone could have said to me at that time that would have made me feel immediately better and unafraid, you know, immediately. So, you know, I've never forgotten that. And, you know, most Christians know that evil spirits and demons, whatever, fear the name of God and Jesus, along with any words they've ever said. You know, you can quote verses and they'll get tired of hearing it and they'll flee from you. Well, that's my story for the day. So I'll make another video soon again, I promise. And I hope you all are having a good Sunday. Thank you for watching.